Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I want to talk about how the former SEC chief, Lisa Braganca, is holding AMC shares for the mother of all short squeezes, and why she's recently bought more. So stay tuned and let's make some money. And now I want to dive straight in with the key information. So, Lucky Cordell tweeted saying the former SEC chief states that she owns both AMC and GameStop shares after the SEC put out a hit piece on meme stock investors. Gary Gensler cannot be trusted. So Lisa has actually been tweeting a lot about the SEC as of late. She said it's very disappointing to see the SEC disparage investors in meme stocks as if they must have done it thoughtlessly. She said especially when the SEC actually permits most trading to take place in dark pools and even admits that over 80 or even 90% of all trades do indeed go through these dark pools. She said, how about a meme video about dark pools, Gary? Or better yet, get trading into the open. She said, or you could actually spend the money and staff time on actually stopping the short seller abuse of retail investors. She said that'd be harder than disparaging retail investors. And that's why I bought AMC and GameStop. So clearly Lisa Braganca is indeed holding both AMC and GameStop, not only for the mother of all short squeezes, but also for market reform as well. She does actually agree and admit that SEC and Gary Gensler are allowing short sellers to continue abusing retail investors and wants that to stop. She also added and said the SEC could even make a video about how it actually permits institutional investors to trade ahead of retail investors and use information they gather via dark pools to make additional money at the expense of retail investors. And she said this isn't like physics. There's no immutable laws actually requiring it to be this way. And finally, she asked, is the goal of the SEC actually investor protection or to protect regular everyday Americans, or to create the impression that retail investors are protected in order to keep money flowing into the US markets and into the hands of those Wall Street investors? Asking for a friend. Now, this isn't just coming from some random Joe on the street. This is actually coming from the former SEC branch chief, Lisa Braganca. This is somebody that actually worked for the SEC and not for a lower tier, low level employee position, but she was a former SEC branch chief. So clearly having that inside scoop at the SEC, she knows the SEC do favour institutional investors and do take their side. But she also knows that this is corrupt, she knows that it's wrong, and that's why she's bought AMC and GameStop, believing in the mother of all short squeezes and believing in market reform. Now, interestingly enough, Rich Pace has even asked Mark Codes what he thinks about the former SEC chief blasting the current administration. Now, I know a lot of people don't agree with Mark Codes and what he says, but I personally think Mark has hit the nail right on the head with this response. Rich tweeted saying, I heard a former SEC chief blasted the current administration of the SEC and asked them to do a meme video on dark pools. And he said this isn't political rivals on opposing sides like you see when an elected office changes guard, but why is the SEC, also why is the SEC doing this now? Mark Codes said he thinks outside influence would be my bet. He knows that people with large pockets are funding the SEC, but he also knows that the previous SEC chief is aware of this and knows that it's wrong. Clearly, these manipulative short-selling funds, like Citadel for example, are funding the SEC and are therefore ensuring the SEC don't come after them and instead promote things like the disparaging of retail investors by making fun of them with silly ads. The short sellers obviously think this is actually going to make retail investors sell their shares, or they're at least hoping that that is the case, but obviously they are severely wrong. If anything, this just proves the SEC does have its hands in these hedge fund pockets and that the SEC is clearly corrupt. And I think the main reason as to why the SEC is choosing now of all times to side with the hedge funds is because of how close to a recession we really are. And guys, if you haven't already, be sure to sign up to Moomoo using the link in the description below to get 5 free shares worth up to $2,500 each. So that's up to $12,500 in free shares. On top of that, Moomoo have also announced that Moomoo and Futu do not accept payment for order flow, and Moomoo also doesn't clear using Apex brokers as they have their own clearinghouse. That means that Moomoo is not affiliated with the same clearinghouse used by Robinhood, Webull, Citadel and many other brokers. Moon was also recently given the award of being the best trading platform because it's very easy to use, it's incredibly customizable, and it's entirely commission free. The SEC obviously doesn't want these major hedge funds, major institutions, and even major banks to end up going bankrupt during the recession, and is trying to do anything they can to help them out. And to show you just how close to a recession we really are, we're seeing a number of large companies actually cancelling their advertisements, and we're also seeing a number of large companies completely halting the hiring process. We've seen Meet Kevin recently make a video talking about how a number of his sponsors or sponsors in the wider market have been cancelling their advertisements. And we're also seeing Coinbase not just halting their hiring process, but actually pulling previously accepted offers, where they've actually offered employees actual job roles and then just cancelled them. Kirill said that means they've ghosted interns who now have zero prospect of finding work for the summer. It also means they've cancelled new hires who are now unemployed and unlikely to get a job during this hiring season. And he said, how is Web3 meant to attract talent if even giants like Coinbase can't guarantee any kind of job stability? But again, it's not just tech companies like Coinbase or not just large advertisers, but even Tesla is planning to reduce its headcount by around 10%. To be specific though, Elon did tweet saying Tesla will be reducing salaried headcount by 10% as we've become overstaffed in many areas, but it doesn't actually apply to anyone building cars, battery packs or installing solar. So that means Tesla is likely reducing its workforce in the marketing department, maybe in its HR or its finance department, and many back-end areas that Tesla and Elon Musk believe that they can live and survive without. Elon Musk recognises he does need employees to build cars, but at the moment he doesn't need a marketing department because of current macroeconomic factors. Now obviously these same macroeconomic factors that are causing Tesla to reduce headcount, causing Coinbase to not only reduce headcount but also halt hiring, and also causing sponsors to cancel their advertisements, clearly points to only one thing, which is a recession. I think what we're starting to see so far is companies making proactive decisions and proactive choices to the coming recession. And I don't think it'll be long until the recession hits and we start seeing many more companies making reactive decisions and reactive choices as they start losing cash and heading down that route towards bankruptcy. At the moment, we're starting to see companies making proactive decisions to cut costs before the recession hits so they don't end up running out of cash and going bankrupt. And as Wall Street Silver tweeted, he said at the moment, we have a parabolic housing bubble and a collapsing tech bubble. He said this time there's no safety net beneath the economy. Obviously back before in history, we've seen a tech bubble in the 2000s, followed by a housing bubble in 2007 and 2008. Now these separately caused individual recessions, causing the S&P 500 to drop by 50% and 55%. At the same time, the S&P 500 halved. We also saw the Fed cut the Fed funding rate by around 5% each time. Right now, we're not only seeing a tech bubble, but we're also seeing a housing bubble at the exact same time, and the Fed only have the ability to cut rates by 0.75%, and so far, they're trying to continue raising rates. The Fed don't have the ability to cut rates as they have done in the past, unless they cut rates to something like -4 or -3%. And at the same time, it's likely that we could see even greater damage being done to the economy because we don't have a separate tech and housing bubble, we actually have a conjoined tech and housing bubble. But Wall Street Silver added saying, yeah, both gamblers and economists are convinced this bear market and this recession will be the easiest of the three, and this time will somehow be different. I think it just goes to show that we're not just setting up for a minor recession, but it could very well be a major, dramatic recession. I've so far been expecting the S&P 500 to fall somewhere between the 300 and 350 level, 300 pointed out by Kevin O'Leary, but if the S&P 500 drops by 55% or more, we could see it falling to the 215 level or even below. We could see the market falling to these 2020 lows and these 2019 lows, or potentially even lower. And as Meet Kevin says, since 1950, we've had 7 Fed rate hike cycles of the speed we're seeing now. A recession has followed 6 of those cycles within 18 months. He said that gives us only a 14% chance of avoiding a recession, unless this time is different. Obviously, all of these economists are expecting this time to be different because the economy possibly can't crash and we could never be in a recession ever again. But I think it just goes to show how in denial the Fed currently is about a recession and how it's unfolding right in front of our very eyes. Especially as we're seeing major companies like Coinbase halting their marketing efforts and halting their hiring efforts and even cancelling contracts that they've already offered out. So guys, be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below, and also ding that notification bell because that way you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers.